What does it take to build a $200 million wine empire in under 2 years while redefining who gets to hold power in one of the most or the least diverse industries in North America? Today, we are sitting here with Neha Kumar, founder and co CEO of Full Glass Wine Company, who is not just playing the game, but she's rewriting the rules. And I am so excited to have this conversation, Neha. So, welcome. So glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's an honor. And I was saying to her just before we started the podcast, this is like my favorite subject. And I think many of us, especially us ladies, we do love our wine. So let's jump in, Neha. So how did you even get into this business to begin with?
What's really interesting is in 2020 and 2021, I was out there in the market essentially looking at different opportunities that were coming up. And one of the things I noticed is that we had a lot of great direct to consumer companies that were out there in the market in various different categories. Wine, obviously, one of them, which is a big fan favorite. And the thing is that a lot of these brands could benefit from having a good, solid infrastructure underneath them where they could essentially leverage an internal operating system, if you want to call it. Think of operations, accounting, finance, everything essentially scaling into one place. So in 2023, one of the companies I was looking at was up for grabs, essentially. The first company was Wink Wines. And so me and my co-founder ended up acquiring that company. And then it led to a series of other companies after that. So it was very opportunistic.
Love it. Love it. Well, and being aware of what's happening in the industry, first of all, is so important, right?
Yeah.
And there's this whole movement right now, especially for women, buying businesses and, not having to start from the ground and working your way up. But it appears that you've really tapped into a market that's super exciting. $200 million company already. You've acquired 7 brands in under 2 years, which most people spend their entire career trying to do. And so you've already accomplished that. So, how did you see this where other people actually miss this opportunity? Because I think that's a burning question for a lot of people is like, how do I see where these opportunities might reside?
What's really interesting is I actually think a lot of people were seeing these things.
Hmm.
And what occurred is in 2020 and 2021, and I'm going to expand on what you just said because I do believe that it actually has to do with action. And
Mhm.
so in 2020 and 2021, interest rates were suppressed for an extended period of time, which everybody knows. And we all knew that it wasn't going to stay that way. So at some point in time, things were going to change. You would start to see capital shift. And what I mean by capital shift is be less availability of capital in the market. It was very free flowing during that time period. And we knew it wasn't going to last. It wasn't as if it was just a normal market change. It was a global pandemic. And so during a global pandemic, you saw that the interest rates were suppressed for a long period of time to allow for additional capital to flow into the market, which really is just a traditional form of expansionary monetary policy, that the Federal Reserve really takes on. And so I did hear of a lot of other people constantly talking about, hey, I'd like to do something. I'd like to buy something out in the market. And this was really in 2022. I was hearing that from other people as well. The difference, I think, is, and this comes back to your question here, and I know a lot of people on some of your great podcasts that you've done before really share something along this line as well. So it feels like a through line through a lot of the people that you've interviewed, is it actually comes back to taking action. And it actually comes back to not waiting for everything to be perfect. So
Mm.
what essentially can you do to say, listen, I know I don't have everything figured out. I might not know how to do everything. What am I going to do next? The first company that we acquired was out of bankruptcy. Had I ever dealt with a bankruptcy situation before? In textbooks, I had, but I didn't know exactly what I was doing. But, if you're smart people, you go out there, you can figure it out. You
Mhm.
don't have to have everything sorted and all your ducks in a row before you go and do it. So in 2022, I started looking at a lot of these items. In 23, one of the companies filed for bankruptcy, and I thought, listen, this seems like a great opportunity. I know this brand is very loved. It has a lot of potential and great things we can do with it. So I reached out to someone I had worked with a long time ago in the past, and we said, listen, why don't we put a bunch of these companies together? Let's make a roll up and let's go. And was I nervous? Every single day. Like,
Mm.
am I still nervous all the time? But you still go.
But you still go, and good for you. That's amazing. I think that that's a very key point is just take a step, take action, right? And yeah, I'm curious, like, what was your background prior to doing this? Because I know people in the audience are sitting here going, yes, but Neha probably had a totally different background that set her up for this. Because we always try to find, I think, reasons not to do it. So
Mhm.
just share a little bit about, what led you here from a professional perspective.
So I used to work in banking. I left banking after I went to grad school and then I joined my first startup. And when I was at my first startup, I fell completely flat on my face. I thought I was brilliant. I thought I was very smart. People talk about getting humble pie thrown in your face. I had humble slices thrown every other hour of every single day, right? It's hard. It's very humbling. But there's a beauty that comes to that. And you realize that everyone around you doesn't know how to do everything, and almost everybody is always figuring it out.
Mm.
And in a world where essentially, now we have at our fingertips, when you look at how quickly AI is moving, we can quickly figure out so many things in the market and how they're working and how things are happening. We don't have to, even more so, have the T pristine background. Yes, I worked in banking. Yes, I do have a lot of finance knowledge and things from my past. Having said that, in my whole life, my resume was never this pristine resume. And a lot of people were confused. You're doing this thing, you're doing that thing. Here's a really interesting concept for you, and maybe some of your listeners will relate to it as well. About 12 years ago or so, my aunt sat down with me, and she's from India. She was visiting, and she had the best intentions. And she said to me, she thought she was coming to me from a place of like motherhood, trying to make sure she's setting me right. And she said, Neha, you're doing all these different things. You teach at UCLA, you're a part of, you left banking to do this startup thing, you're doing this. And she said, listen, it just sounds like you're all over the place and you don't know what you're doing.
Mm.
Now, if you talk to her, she's going to say, oh my gosh, Neha always knew what she was doing. She had it all figured out and it all connected. The interesting thing is, whatever you're up to and whatever you're doing, everyone thinks that it can sound crazy or off the top or as if you're not in line for something until you pass that hurdle and then you get to the other side. Then, once you get to the other side, everyone starts to say, oh, I always knew that idea was going to work. It's amazing.
Funny how that happens, right?
Right? It
Well,
really is.
I love that you share that, Neha, because my brain goes to you've done all these different things which have actually set you up for what you're doing today, right?
I appreciate that. Because see,
And
I saw that, but not
yes,
everybody always did.
yes,
And so
it's
it's
true.
it's okay if everyone doesn't always see what you see.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It's actually better often that they don't, right? Because
Yep.
then everybody would jump on that same,
Bandwagon. Yeah,
storyline.
yeah.
And this is what provides you that uniqueness because the experiences that you've had in life have helped you craft where you are. And sometimes we don't realize that until much later in our lives.
Mhm.
And so when you realize that at a younger age, how brilliant is that? That yeah, I was doing exactly what I was supposed to be doing at that time. And it's
Yep.
taught me this. I love that. So you're operating at scale in an industry not known for diverse leadership. I
Yep.
mean, certainly, has its complications and
Mhm.
has been, a woman of color shape the way that you lead, negotiate, and build power. And I think that's a really important conversation for us to have because again, it's that defining moment of how and why you take the steps and the action that you do.
Yeah. I'm going to share a quick story with you if that's okay.
Absolutely.
I was teaching an undergrad class. I teach at UCLA undergrad. And Some years ago, maybe 5, 6 years ago, I was teaching a course and I had an Asian student from Hawaii in my class. And she came to my office hours one time and she asked me for a private office hours appointment. And I said, okay, a lot of students ask me for that if they want to talk about something confidential. A lot of times that's how could they do better in the class or can I give them more points, right? This one was interesting. It was very different. She sat with me and it took her a few minutes and then she started to get a little bit teary-eyed and she said to me, "It's so amazing that people like us get to see people like you teaching and know that we could do things in life." And I was very confused.
Mm.
She was of Japanese descent and I was just sitting there and I didn't understand what she was saying for a couple minutes and she got very teary-eyed. It took me a little bit to realize what representation really is. We all hear about representation in our life, but it was in that moment I felt it, experienced it, and I felt it through my whole body. When she was talking about people like us and people like me, she was thinking we're all the same.
Mhm.
I didn't even realize what that meant until she went through that moment.
Wow.
And I realized then I am the representation. So, Vicky, all of us in some way, shape, or form suffer from imposter syndrome. I myself have in the past, I still do. I didn't even realize I could be that representation. That conversation that I've had with that student has fueled me for so many years now. And that has helped me so much when I'm doing negotiations, when I'm dealing with challenging people, which I do all the time in my industry, because I am a stand for that representation. Because before I thought, whatever I do, it's not going to make an impact to anybody. I'm just doing it because it's my job. I need to move my career forward. Now, after that conversation, I realized, wait a minute, what I'm doing means something. And I'm a stand for other people. I teach accounting and finance in undergrad. And it is in the past historically been predominantly Caucasian males teaching that subject matter. And I didn't even realize that until that student brought that up with me. And it was so amazing to see what an impact I was able to make. So, back to your original question, how do I do it? I do it for her. I do it for all the other people out there that I know that this can make a difference for. And I'm not just doing it for them. By doing it for them, it actually gives me more power. It
Sure.
gives me more of the ability to be a stand because I remember why I'm doing that. And
Mm.
that is truly so much power.
I love that. I love that. And thank you for sharing that story. I mean, that is so beautiful. And how fortunate you were that this young lady spoke up, right? Because so
I
many times we
know.
go through our life and you don't know, am I making a difference? And chances are you are making a difference. So that's incredible. And, I want to connect what you just said there. 2 points already in this conversation you've highlighted: take a step, take action, right? But also recognizing that your uniqueness, who you are, does make a
Yeah.
difference in the world. And sometimes we forget that, right? We don't realize that the power, but also the responsibility that we have.
Yeah.
And sometimes if that role model is not there, you might be just the person who needs to become the role model.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So let's talk a little bit about growth strategy, right? Like
Mhm.
Full Glass Wine, you've acquired, 7 brands, you're scaling quickly. What's that internal filter when you're deciding that is this particular brand, this particular company, the right brand for us to connect with and transform how people see it?
It's really a combination of thinking of a puzzle meets Tetris.
Mm,
So we're constantly thinking about what are all the puzzle pieces that we need to create the ultimate vision that we have. Then who has something? Some company might have one piece of it, another company might have a different piece of it. So, how do all these puzzle pieces really fit together? Now, if I told you that's all it was, then that wouldn't be fair.
mm,
It's a combination of the puzzle plus Tetris, because in the game of Tetris, as we all know, pieces get thrown your way. And sometimes you know what the right piece is, the next piece that you want. Having said that, you don't always get all the pieces that you want either. So, how do you manage things? And then the other component that you have in Tetris, which is hard, is the better you get at the game, the quicker the time goes. So the pieces start to come even faster. So the decisions have to be made at a more accelerated pace. So we have a clear vision of what we're trying to achieve, the person that I run the company with. So the two of us are very much in sync and we know what we want. The thing is that the game keeps changing also. So we have to constantly iterate as every few days, few weeks, few months go by. I think it's very important to say, listen, this is what I'm out there to go and get. Like, this is what I'm looking to achieve. What are all the building blocks that I want to take along the way? Having said that, I have to be ready to iterate along the path. Now, anyone out there who has children, you know this very, very well. You think you have a plan of how things are going to go, and then they do what they do, right? And so you have to keep iterating everything along the way.
Well, and that's incredible advice. And, for our listeners, that is true no matter what kind of organization you work in, right? We all have the best laid plans. We create these amazing strategies. And if it was a perfect world, yes, everything would go exactly as we want. But what you're sharing is absolute truth. Like, you have to constantly be aware of what's changing, evolving. Things are getting thrown at us. The complexity is getting more complex. It is being aware. And then how do you pivot? How do you stay nimble so that you
Yeah.
can make those adjustments?
Like we had last year, we have the tariffs coming down, right?
Yes.
Like they give all the Tetris pieces, right? We have logistical slow delays for products that are coming overseas. Then there's so many changes with AI and all the algorithms, like how we're dealing with this. Then you have everything that's now going to change with direct to consumer customer acquisition because of AI. So all the pieces are coming on a constant, frequent basis, whether it's acquisitions that we're looking to do, whether it's different things, the way the market is going to work for the go forward. And we have to be able to react, and you're not always going to get the pieces that you want coming down.
Yeah, true, true. So when you look at direct to consumer, like, what behaviors are you seeing that some of the legacy players might be underestimating and maybe is your sweet spot?
The first one is easy. It's a little bit more on the boring side, but it's just understanding unit economics,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so one of the most expensive parts for our type of a product is shipping. So it's really making sure that you're managing the shipping process. And so before, people might have sold 2 bottles a pack, 4 bottles a pack, 5 bottles a pack. Our thing is, how do we an opportunity for customers to basically get 6 or more and move them into a 12 pack potentially. And that brings down our unit economics per pack. So instead of having, for example, monthly shipments, how do we get them on quarterly shipments? How do we encourage that? So from a marketing standpoint, that's there. That's the number one thing that's our sweet spot. So we essentially take all the businesses that we've acquired, and within anywhere from 60 to 120 days, so on average 90 days, we turn them profitable. And that's something for us that's a very big deal. And that is our absolute sweet spot. So right away, we manage that. That's the first thing. The next thing is in regards to industry trends and what we're seeing that some of the legacy players might, and also just based on a lot of the news that we're hearing in the market as well about wine, is wine going to have the same sales that they had in 2020, 2021? It was a global pandemic. Everybody was at home. I mean, of course not. But is it higher than 2015, 16, 17, 18? It is. And so what we still anticipate and what we're already seeing is that the need for human connection is strong. Wine is a human connection type of product. So our focus isn't necessarily on just wine, but our focus on is being able to deliver to consumers, the end consumer, something at their home that makes it easy for them. It's a convenience factor and a curation factor, but essentially allows them the ability to connect and share with other people. Wine is a shared experience. One bottle will give you approximately 4 glasses. Most of the time, people aren't drinking all 4 glasses by themselves. You're inviting people over. You're having dinners. You're having events. It's a celebration. You might be having a special date night at home. And so that's what we're very excited to continue to be a part of. And as technology has increased, it's very interesting. Some of the younger generations you're seeing, they grew up with social, they grew up with technology. And what we keep hearing from younger generations, even for me with my existing students, which is so interesting, is how do we create more of an effort towards creating personal experiences with others? One of my students the other day recently called it the invisible barrier.
Mhm.
Even from a networking standpoint, how do you go talk to people? Before we'd go out for drinks. Now everybody's doing messaging online or Zoom meetings or Google Meets, right? And so wine is one thing that is a wonderful way to bring human beings together, which is really our continued focus. And we are seeing a continued desire for that.
Love that. Love that. Well, and I certainly agree. I mean, I know that's how I utilize it because it is a connector, right? And even what you're talking about, like it's sort of bridging a gap, right?
Hmm.
Because it's special. And I mean, I love nothing more when somebody comes to my house and brings a special bottle of wine. And so you get introduced even to something completely different, which changes that experience.
Yeah.
And that direct to consumer, like during the pandemic, that was a really important part because like I'm based out of Toronto and everything was shut down, right? Like we
Hmm.
had a long time that we were let's say isolated. So
Yeah.
it was really important to be able to have what you wanted brought to your home. And so, you know, when I think about wine and the beauty of wine, like it is a great way to engage people and connect from that
Yeah.
lens.
You
Yeah,
talk about where it's from, the country, you talk about the varietal. It's a connecting point with people.
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
nice.
So, just out of curiosity, what is your favorite? Like when you look at, I put you on the spot a little bit.
Oh, on the spot. Do you see my background? This is not a fake background.
No, 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 I know. So, tell me, what is your favorite back there?
I love champagne. I'm a
Love it.
champagne person. I'm a champagne house. The reason for me is I love the concept of celebration. And
Hmm.
I think even more so celebration since COVID, it's turned into a bigger, more important thing that we make an effort for it. Before in life, we used to have milestone events and everybody would celebrate those milestone events in person. Since COVID, it's shifted quite a bit, and the increase of technology has created that as well. Before, when you close a deal in mergers and acquisitions, everybody goes out, they celebrate, it's a dinner, it's an event, right? It's a closing dinner, it's a big thing. Now, what was happening is you do a Zoom call and everybody does a virtual high five, and then I go into close my laptop, go into the other room, and I'm making my kids dinner. It's just such a strange concept to me. So I'm constantly trying to find a way to create the fun and to create that excitement in life. And so champagne to me is such a delicious, delicious drink. It pairs well with so many fun, different types of food. And so it makes it a fun celebratory occasion, right? Like, potato chips and caviar, popcorn. Like it's such a fun way to do things where there's a lot of other wines, obviously, that are very, very great and amazing. This, for me personally, is truly my joy.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I actually was out last night celebrating and had champagne and lobster risotto.
That
And it
sounds
was like,
amazing.
right? It was such a beautiful evening. And what you're talking about with that celebration, like I think we have gotten so complacent with, okay, now what's next? Instead of taking that
Yeah.
moment and, really absorbing and embodying the work that's gone into whatever that achievement is
Hmm.
and taking time to celebrate. And champagne it is special. It's unique. And I don't discriminate. I love all varieties of wine. But I do agree with you. That's one of my favorites. Okay, so let's talk about the scaling a little bit without losing ourselves. So you've acquired 500 wines across multiple brands. How do you scale so aggressively while preserving your brand identity? And most importantly, the trust with your customer. Trust keeps coming up for me in so many levels. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
The biggest thing is, Vicky, is that we essentially, the first thing that we do is we actually integrate the back end. So the integration for us is actually happening in the back office sector. So you want to think of engineering, the first thing, we put everybody on the same tech stack. Then the second thing from there is going to be wine buying and procurement. And then we have operations and finance. Right. So it's operations, finance, accounting, and tech essentially are the big ones. We also do have integrated things on the marketing front, but from the marketing front, really think of SMS or email messaging, things like that, right? So all of the platforms that are used for those are integrated. The brand identity is owned by separate brand owners. And the reason for that is we want to make sure that each one of the brands still maintains their own brand voice and how we keep the
Mhm.
integrity of each one of the brands. Because for us also, each one of the consumer demographics that we have are very unique and different. And that's the
Mm.
cool part about what we're creating. What we want it to be essentially, Vicky, is that when you're coming under the full glass wine umbrella, is that you have the ability to be able to grow your taste preferences as well. So for example, let's say you come on board and you start with Wine Insiders. Wine Insiders gives you wines that are curated from all over the world. We help you, kind of pick them. We'll pick them for you. We send them to your house and it's easy. Let's say over time you start to say, listen, I want to try something a little bit different. I want to try something a little bit higher end. You could move to one of our brands called Wine Access. We are okay with you staying in one brand. We're okay with you moving from one brand to the other as long as you stay within the full glass wine umbrella. We understand that people's taste profile changes over time. Also, their income level changes over time and they might want to change things. Another example is the use case. So let's say, for example, right now I'm having a girls' brunch at my house on Saturday, and I'm going to get a bunch of bottles from Wink. That's perfect. We have cute bottles. The bottles are super great for posting online too as well. They taste delicious. We even have some wonderful non-alcoholic wines like Cheeky, which is a 0% rosé, and it is the best rosé I've ever tasted that is non-alcoholic. So we have some great wines there. Now, let's say, for example, Vicky, my mother-in-law is coming over. Now, my mother-in-law is Irish with very discerning taste. And she also helps a lot with I have two young children who are 7 and 5. So she helps a lot with my children. So I want to make sure we have the right wine for her. So even though I might order, if all my girlfriends are coming over on Saturday for brunch, I might order all the fun Wink wines. When she's coming over, I might go to Wine Access and then get some help in picking a $60 to $100 bottle of wine for the special occasion that she's coming over and wants some wine. So there's different use cases that are here. And so for us, we actually want to maintain the integrity of each brand. It doesn't behoove us to consolidate the brands themselves.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. And I love how you describe the differentiator, right? Depending on the mood, the audience. And part of that too, like, is really understanding and knowing your audience and what
Yeah,
is going to resonate. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. And so how do you find trust plays into that? Keeping that trust level high with your end users.
It's telling them what's happening,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I think one of the biggest things, which is ironic, is the shipping. It's letting them know when their package is coming, giving them the reminder emails. It gives people a sense of comfort right away and knowing that I thought my package was coming now and it's coming and I can expect it. And it might just be starting with that.
Mhm.
Right? Because once you start to set the stage for trust and you continue that, one thing leads to another, leads to another. And that's the component that's very helpful. People usually think that those types of things are of a large magnitude and a large scale, but just letting people know that your shipment's going to be late makes a very big difference in being proactive about it because it sets the stage. It's just like that with any relationship, though. For anybody who has a partner, married, girlfriend, boyfriend, parent, whatever it is, if you're going over to their house and you're going to be late or you can't make it, just by letting them know a little bit in advance or as soon as you find out, it sets the stage for trust. And for some reason, people think that you have to do some large, grand gesture to create trust. But trust is those little things that happen in between the business occurring that you proactively do to take on. And that's what builds the trust with customers.
Nice. Nice. And how are you orchestrating that with your team? So you talk about micro level habits and things that you're doing. So what's happening internally with the company
Yeah.
from a team perspective?
So we've had a lot of challenges because we integrated companies so quickly, so fast, it's hard. And one of the best ways for me to build trust with the team is by proactively communicating and then also just remembering we're all one. We try not to look at it as a hierarchy. There's an org chart, there's a hierarchy that sits there, right? It's just par for the course with any business. But I started with my team, specifically, let's say with accounting and finance. One of the big things I started to do with them is if I make a mistake, I tell them I made a mistake. And so I was like, oh my gosh, because we're all moving so fast and there's so much work that needs to get done. So I would essentially state to them, I made an error here. Okay, got it. Now what are we going to do? What I want them to learn is it's not about right or wrong, because when we're moving at the speed that we are, somebody's going to drop the ball, something is going to happen. And I want the team to feel comfortable to come to me and say, I made a mistake. This is what happened. This is what I think we should do for a solve. What do you think? And it's not about a right or wrong. We don't want someone hiding something. We
Yeah.
don't want someone trying to cover something up. We don't want someone shoving something under the rug. And so it's just back to those little things, just like emailing a customer that your shipment's going to be late or there's an issue or whatever it is, because that's what starts to build that rapport and that reputation. And even with the employees as well, it's, hey guys, I will start with, I did it. I made a mistake. I
Hmm.
put this number in the wrong place. I miscalculated something. All right, let's go. And the first couple times, I remember one of my employees would say to me, oh, you don't have to apologize. You don't have to do this. And I was like, listen, I just want to be very clear. I actually didn't apologize. I actually just said I made a mistake. Right? There's a very difference. Like, there's a big
Big time.
difference. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm sorry. Like, I'm just saying I made a mistake. It's
Mhm.
factual. Like, I want it to be a fact. It's not an emotional thing. It's not right or wrong when you're moving at the pace that we are. It's
Mhm.
just something didn't work. Something happened. It didn't work, or something is an error. Okay. What are we going to do now?
Yeah.
And so we want to take out the emotion of right or wrong or people sitting there with the feeling. And I know I was succeeding. One time, my head of finance called me on a Friday night and something was eating away at him. And he called me at 9 o'clock and he said, I really want to talk to you about something, Neha. Something occurred. It didn't rub me the right way. And a series of events occurred after that. And he went through it with me. And I said, okay, great, let's go through it. And he talked through it. And he said, I didn't want to go. This is when I knew I won or had succeeded, right? And my winning is like us all winning as a team. Is he said, I didn't want to go through the whole weekend and let it eat at me. I hope you don't mind that I called. And
Okay.
I'm like,
Mhm.
this is us winning
Yeah.
because you don't want to let the whole weekend go. Like, I don't want you to eat at you over the weekend. He has two young kids as well. I want you to go have fun with your wife and your young kids and go do cool things. Because when that starts to occur and it's eating at people, it's now dirt under the rug
Mhm.
and it builds up over time, over time. Then when he gets to the next week, he might have said, you know what, I don't want to bring it up with her now. It's like not it's past, it doesn't matter now, let's just let it go. Then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, something else happens. It eats at him even more, but he doesn't want to bring it up. Now it's he's cleaned it up, he feels good. I'm like, this is great.
Love that. Love that. And that's a great example of taking responsibility or accountability for what's happening, right? And
Yeah.
when people own that, like you can't help but be successful because you're right. If it permeates and they're always thinking about it, it's like a cancer that spreads through an
Yeah.
organization, right? Love that. Wow, this has been such a great conversation. So we have a lot of people listening right now and somebody might be sitting there going, do I take this step? It's not that they're not excited or ambitious, but there's that little bit of fear that might be making them nervous. So what advice would you give them to help them take that step to action?
I have two. Is
Okay.
that
Love it.
okay? All right. So I'm gonna give you the first one is a really quick story. I was when you have little kids, they watch the same movies over and over and
Mm,
over again on repeat. My son was watching Willy Wonka, the Johnny Depp one,
mm,
and over again, much to my annoyance. The interesting thing is when you start to watch something over and over again, it starts to resonate with you in a different way. There's
mm.
a scene in Willy Wonka where Johnny Depp is telling Charlie, the young boy, of why he wanted to do the golden tickets. And it was a scene where it's a flashback scene, and he goes back in the scene, and basically one of the Oompa Loompas is cutting his hair, and he finds one gray hair. And he said, even though I thought I have all the time in the world, I don't. And I'm not going to be here forever, but I want this chocolate factory to continue forever. And so I want it to keep going. Not too long after that, I got my first gray hair. And I got gray hair later in life. I'm very fortunate. I understand that. So this was not about aesthetics, but it was a thing for me of I think I have all the time in the world. So I wanted to wait until everything was perfect.
Mm.
But you don't have all the time in the world. And so, whatever it is you want to do, wherever you want to go, you just got to start. And that's also where it leads into my second one, which is there's a book that I love called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. He's one of I
Mm.
love him as an author. And he had a quote that essentially is, do not wait. The time will never be just right. Start where you stand. Wherever you are, just start right there.
Mm.
And that I think is one of the hugest pieces of items that people should take and run with.
Yeah, love that. And it's so true. I mean, we don't know what tomorrow brings. And
Ex-
that is very much about being present, right? Even when you talked about earlier about when you saw the opportunity to buy this business, you saw it and you did it. You could have waited, right? And now you
Mhm.
wouldn't be 500 brands later.
Yeah.
So taking that action becomes super important. And it can be scary, but believing in yourself and knowing that whatever comes your way is figure outable. And you've said that a few times, you can figure things out, and you can find resources to support you. There's so many ways, but it is about taking that step and not waking up years down the road and going, I wish I had.
Yeah.
Instead, saying, look what I've created.
Exactly.
Yeah, love that. Wow, Neha, thank you so much for sharing with us. Like, this has been such a great conversation, and love, love, love the work you're doing.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for that. And if people want to find you, they have more questions, how can they reach out and find you?
I think one of the best ways is Instagram, right? So my handle is Neha, Nehat, middle initial for my middle name, which is Tiffany. So it's Neha T. Kumar is my handle, and you're welcome to follow me, reach out, DM, and would love to connect with your viewers.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so, so much for being here with us today. It's been a great, great conversation and great insight. So thank you for all that you're doing. And audience, I want to thank you for chiming in today. As always, we have a little gift for you. So make sure you go on the Women in Leadership Empowered website, take our free leadership quiz. It'll give you a lot of insight as to how you're showing up as a leader. And I'd love to hear from you. Like, where are you excelling? Where are you seeing opportunity for yourself? So thank you again, everyone, and we'll see you on the next Women in Leadership Talk podcast. Take care.
Thank
Thank you for joining us for Will Talk, sponsored by Women in Leadership Empowered. To learn more about our programs, please visit www.willempowered.com. We look forward to seeing you in our community.